Hello everybody, this is Refresh and I'm here to bring you a battle between two Ikoria sealed decks and the Horde challenge deck from Born of the Gods. These two sealed decks are both Jeskai decks, and you'll find the links to the videos where they were built in the description box below. For these battles, we're going to be using 3 hero cards. The Harvester, which says tap, draw a card, then discard a card. The Explorer, which says you may play an additional land on each of your turns. And the Vanquisher, which says your starting hand size is increased by 1, your maximum hand size is increased by 1. Because I only have 1 copy of each of these cards, we're going to apply them to both decks simultaneously. We'll be playing 2 games against the challenge deck. First on normal difficulty with 3 turns before the Horde attacks, and then on hard mode. Go ahead and get our opening hands. Red draws a Dreamtail Heron, Mountain, Fire Prophecy, Lord Drakus, Filscare Mentor, Island, Regal Leosaur, and Mountain. It's not a great opening hand, but we will keep this. Blue draws a Pacifism, Sprite Dragon, Thieving Otter, Plains, Spontaneous Flight, Swift Otter Clift, and Lava Serpent. Also not a great hand, but one that we can keep. We'll start with red playing an island and a mountain, and blue will play a plains, and then we'll play a Swift Water Cliffs. This is a land. It enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. You can have it for blue or red. We'll gain a life to go up to 21. And then we will end the turn using the Harvester. Red draws a Plains, and we will discard the Fire Prophecy. Blue draws a Island, and we will discard the Spontaneous Flight. And then we'll untap. Red will draw a Farfinder. Blue will draw an Island. We will play an Island and a Plains, and then we will tap 3 mana over here to cast a Thieving Otter. This is a 2/2 Otter, and whenever it deals damage to an opponent, draw a card. Over here we'll play a Plains and a Mountain. We'll tap the Plains and the Mountain to cast the Regal Leosaur. This is a 2/2 Dinosaur Cat with Mutate, 1 red white. Whenever this creature mutates, other creatures you control get +2/+1 until end of turn. And that is all we have for this turn. We will end the turn by using the Harvester. Red draws a Mountain, and we will discard the Farfinder. Blue draws a Plains, and we will discard the Plains. We'll untap. Red draws a Mountain. Blue draws a Wingspan Mentor. We'll play the Island over here. We'll play the Mountain and the Mountain over here. And blue will tap the Swift Water Cliffs for red and an Island to cast the Sprite Dragon. This is a 1/1 Fairy Dragon with flying and haste, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And then we will spend 3 more mana to cast the Wingspan Mentor. This is a 1/3 human wizard. When it enters the battlefield, put a flying counter on target non-human creature you control. You can pay 2 blue, tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control with flying. We'll put the counter on Thieving Otter. We'll go to combat and we'll attack with the Thieving Otter, the Sprite Dragon, and the Regal Leosaur for 5 damage. And then we'll draw a card off of the Thieving Otter's trigger. We get a Plains. We'll play the Plains, and then we'll follow up by casting a Lord Drakus over here. This is a 2/3 Lizard Beast with Mutate blue, red, and whenever this creature mutates, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. We'll also spend 3 mana to cast a Filscare Mentor. This is a 3/2 human warrior, and when it enters the battlefield, put a menace counter on target non-human creature you control. You can pay 2 red, tap to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control with menace. We'll put that menace counter on the Regal Leosaur, and then we will pass the turn to the Horde. The Horde will cast the top 3 cards. The first one is a Consuming Rage. Whenever a Minotaur attacks this turn, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Destroy this creature at the end of combat. We'll also cast a Minotaur Younghorn. This is a 2/2 Minotaur with haste and attacks each turn if able. And then a Mogus Chosen. It is a 5/4 Minotaur and enters the battlefield tapped and attacks each turn if able. This will only affect the Minotaur Younghorn, which will attack with haste. We'll go ahead and take it since it's going to die anyways, and go down to 17. The Younghorn will die. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Red draws a Frostveil Ambush, and we'll discard the Frostveil Ambush. Blue will draw a Capture Sphere, and we'll discard the Capture Sphere. And then we'll untap. Red draws an Evolving Wild. Blue will draw a Plains. Blue will tap out and cast Lava Serpent. This is a 5/5 Elemental Serpent with haste and cycling 2. Red will tap 4 mana, and we will mutate the Dreamtail Heron onto the Regal Leosaur. This is a 3/4 Elemental Bird with mutate 3 blue and flying, and whenever this creature mutates, draw a card. This will be put on top of the Regal Leosaur. This will give all of the other creatures +2/+1. We'll draw a card off of this ability, giving us a Skycat Sovereign. And then we will go to combat, and we will attack with the entire team for 21 damage. We hit a Plundered Statue. It's an artifact, and when it is put into a graveyard from anywhere, each player draws a card. Red draws a Mountain. Blue draws a Divine Arrow. We hit a Massacre Totem. It says when it's put into a graveyard from anywhere, put the top 7 cards of the Horde's library in its graveyard. And that is that. Blue will play a Plains. Red will play the Evolving Wilds, which is a land. It says tap, sacrifice it. Search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. Go ahead and tap and sacrifice it immediately to search for Plains. We'll put it on the battlefield tapped, and we'll shuffle. Then we'll pass to the Horde. The Horde will untap, and then cast the top 3 cards. The first one is a Minotaur Younghorn. The second one is a Phobos Reaver. This is a 2/3 Minotaur with haste and attacks each turn if able. The last one is a Touch of the Horn God. Whenever a Minotaur attacks this turn, it gains Death Touch until end of turn. We're going to be attacked by these 3 creatures for a total of 9 damage, taking us down to 8. Then at the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Red draws an island, and we will discard the Mountain. Blue will draw a Plains, and we will discard the Pacifism. We'll untap. Red draws a Porcupine, and blue draws a One of Mind. Blue will tap 1 island to cast the One of Mind. It's a sorcery. It costs 2 less to cast if you control a human and a non-human creature. We do, and it says draw 2 cards. We'll draw a One of Mind and a Checkpoint Officer. We'll spend another blue to cast another One of Mind, which causes us to draw a Voracious Great Shark and a Drannith Healer. Red will tap a blue and a white to cast the Skycat Sovereign. This is a 1/1 elemental cat with flying, and it gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with flying. And for 2 white and blue, create a 1/1 cat bird creature token with flying. Red will spend 3 mana to mutate the Porcupine onto the Dreamtail Heron. This is a 3/4 bird beast with mutate 2 and red. You can tap it to deal X damage to any target, where X is the number of times this creature has mutated. We are going to draw a card off of the Dreamtail Heron's ability. This is a Frill Scare Mentor. We'll also give all the other creatures +2/+1. And then we have the Porcupine's ability online. We'll go to combat, and we'll attack with the Lord Dracus, the Frill Scare Mentor, the Sprite Dragon, the Thieving Otter, the Wingspan Mentor, and the Lava Serpent for 18 total damage. We hit an Altar of Mogus. When it is put into a graveyard from anywhere, the Horde sacrifices 2 Minotaurs. We'll sacrifice the Mogus's Chosen and the Phobos Reaver. We have another Plundered Statue. Red draws a Savai Thundermane, and blue will draw a Mountain. We hit a Vitality Salve. It says when it is put into a graveyard from anywhere, each player returns a creature card from his or her graveyard to the battlefield. Red will return a Farfinder to the battlefield. This is a 1/1 Fox with Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. Go ahead and grab another island. We'll put it in our hand. We'll shuffle. Blue has no creatures. And then we will spend 2 mana here to cast the Drannith Healer. This is a 2/2 Human Cleric. Whenever you cycle another card, you gain 1 life. And cycling for 1. We'll spend 2 mana over here to play the Savai Thundermane. This is a 3/2 elemental cat. Whenever you cycle a card, you may pay 2. When you do, Savai Thundermane deals 2 damage to target creature and you gain 2 life. We'll play an island, and then we will pass the turn to the Horde. The Horde will untap and cast the top 3 cards. The first one is a Refreshing Elixir. It's an artifact at the beginning of the Horde's pre-combat main phase. Reveal an additional card from the top of the Horde's library. The Horde casts that card. When it's put into a graveyard from anywhere, each player gains 5 life. Then we have another refreshing elixir. And finally, we have a Intervention of Karanos. At the beginning of combat this turn, Intervention of Karanos deals 3 damage to each creature. We'll go ahead and go to the beginning of combat and deal 3 damage to each creature. That will kill the Lord Drakus, the Frill Scare Mentor, the Savai Thundermane, the Skycat Sovereign, and the Farfinder over here. We'll also lose the Sprite Dragon, the Thieving Otter, the Wingspan Mentor, and the Granith Healer over here. However, the Horde will also lose their Minotaur Younghorn, and that will defeat the Horde. There'll be a rare self-defeat there, right there. And the Ikoria Sealed Decks defeat the Horde on regular difficulty. We'll be right back for hard mode. It's time for hard mode. We'll only have 2 turns before the Horde attacks. We'll go ahead and draw our opening hands. Red draws a Skycat Sovereign, Ferocious Tigerilla, Plains, Regal Leosaur, Frill Scare, Mentor, Polywog Symbiote, and Lord Drakus. We can't really cast anything from here, so we're going to take a mulligan here. And because this is multiplayer, we get at least 1 free mulligan. We get a Ferocious Tigerilla, Pouncing Shore Shark, Polywog Symbiote, Farfinder, Dreamtail Heron, Savai Triumph, Plains, and Mythos of Vadrock. I do not like this hand either because there are 3 blue cards and no blue lands here. But I think because we have the Farfinder to get that 3rd blue land, we might still keep this one and hope that we can loot a little bit more quickly into what we need. Blue draws a Coordinated Charge, Alert Heatbonder, Mountain, Divine Arrow, Will of the All Hunter, Catchosphere, Island, and Swiftwater Cliffs. This is a pretty bad hand, but we are going to keep this anyways because at least it is kind of a hand. We'll go ahead and get started with red playing a Plains and a Savai Triome. This is a land. It is a Mountain Plain Swamp. It enters the battlefield tapped and you cycle it for 3. It'll enter the battlefield tapped. And blue will play the Mountain and the Island. We're going to go to the end step of the first turn and we'll use the Harvester. Red will draw a Frost Veil Ambush, and we will discard the Mythos of Vadrock, and then we will also tap the Plains to cycle the Frost Veil Ambush as well to draw a Snare Tactician. Blue will draw a Ominous Sea, and we will tap both of these to cycle the Will of the All Hunter, and we'll draw a Imposing Vantasaur, and then we'll untap. Red draws a Mountain. Blue draws a One of Mind. This is not a great start. Red will play the Mountain, and we will tap out to cast the Farfinder. Go ahead and search for a blue land. That's an island. We'll put it into our hand. We'll shuffle. We'll play the Swiftwater Cliff over here. They'll enter the battlefield tapped, and then we'll gain a life to go up to 21. We'll spend 2 mana over here to cast Ominous Seas. This is an enchantment. Whenever you draw a card, put a Foreshadow counter on Ominous Seas. Remove 8 Foreshadow counters from it to create an 8/8 blue Kraken creature token, and you can cycle it for 2. And that is it for us. We're going to go to the Horde's turn, and they are going to cast their top. And then red can also play the island, so we will do so. And then we're going to go to the Horde's turn. They will cast the top 3 cards. The first one is a Minotaur Goreseeker. This is a 3/2 Minotaur with haste and attacks each turn if able. We also have a Minotaur Younghorn and a Minotaur Goreseeker. All 3 of these are going to attack. We don't have a profitable block here, and so we are going to take all 8 damage to go down to 13. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Red will draw an island, and we will discard the Snare Tactician. Blue will draw a Pacifism, and we will discard the Pacifism. And then we'll put a counter on the Ominous Seas for that draw. And then we'll untap. Red draws a Mountain. Blue will draw a Plains. We'll put another counter on the Ominous Seas. We will play the Plains over here. We will play the Island and the Mountain over here. We're going to tap 2 mana over here to cast the Polywog Symbiote. This is a 1/3 frog, and each creature spell you cast costs 1 less to cast if it has Mutate. Whenever you cast a creature spell, if it has Mutate, draw a card, then discard a card. And then we will spend 3 mana, 1 blue and 2 others, to mutate the Dreamtail Heron onto the Farfinder. Because it was a mutate creature, the Polywog Symbiote reduced the cost by 1 and will trigger the ability to draw a card. This is a Lord Drakus that will draw. And then we'll trigger the ability of the Polywog Symbiote. We will draw a card, then discard a card. We'll draw the mountain, and we will discard the mountain. We will go to combat and attack with the Dreamtail Heron, which has Vigilance thanks to the Farfinder, for 3. We hit a plundered statue, so we'll draw a card each. Red draws a Tranquil Cove, and blue will draw a Plains. We'll play the Plains, and we'll tap both of the Plains, as well as a red mana to cast the Alert Heed Bonder. This is a 2/4 Human Scout with Vigilance. At the beginning of your end step, it gain 1 life for each creature you control with Vigilance. We control 1 creature with Vigilance, so we'll gain 1 life here. And then we will pass the turn to the Horde. The Horde will untap. And then we'll cast the top 3 cards. The first one is a Minotaur Younghorn. The second one is a Reckless Minotaur. This is a 4/1 Minotaur with haste. It attacks each turn if able. At the beginning of the end step, destroy Reckless Minotaur. And finally we have a Unquenchable Fury. Each Minotaur can't be blocked this turn except by 2 or more creatures. So these are all attacking, and we have to block with a minimum of 2 creatures to block any of them. So we will combine the Dreamtail Heron and the Alert Heat Bonder to block the Minotaur Gore Seeker. We're going to take 11 damage to go down to 3, and the Gore Seeker will die. And that was a brutal bit right there. We are going to, at the end of the turn, use the Harvester. Red will draw an Evolving Wild, and we will discard the Evolving Wilds. Blue will draw a Frost Veil Ambush, and we will discard the Capture Sphere. We're going to tap these 2 here and cycle the Coordinated Charge, and we'll get 2 counters on the Ominous Seas for that. We draw a Plains, and then we will untap. Red draws a Flourishing Fox. Blue will draw a Island. We'll play the Island, play the Plains. We'll play the Tranquil Cove over here. This is a land that enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, you gain a life. You can tap it for blue and white. Gain a life to go up to 4. The Reckless Minotaur should have died. And then we should have gained a counter from drawing for the turn. Red will mutate the Lord Drakus. Tapping these 2. We'll mutate this onto the Polywog Symbiote and put it on top. And then because it is a mutate creature, we'll draw and discard. We draw a Startling Development, and we will discard the Startling Development. And then we will grab the Mythos of Vadrock back into our hand. And blue will tap 6 mana to cast the Imposing Venusaur. This is a 3/6 dinosaur with Vigilance and cycling 1. And because we have a human and a non-human, we will tap 1 blue mana to cast 1 of Mind. We'll draw a Tranquil Cove and a Yorion Sky Nomad. This will give us 2 more counters to take us up to 7. We will go to combat, and we will attack with the Alert Heat Bonder, the Dreamtail Heron, and the Lord Drakus for 7 damage. And then red will tap out and cast Mythos of Vadrock. It's a sorcery. It deals 5 damage, divided as you choose, among any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers. If white and blue were spent to cast this spell, until your next turn, those permanents can't attack, block, and their activated abilities can't be activated. We'll spread it out to kill 2 of these and ping the Minotaur Younghorn so it cannot attack the next turn. At the end of the turn, we'll gain 1 life for each Vigilance creature, which is 2, taking us up to 6. And then we will pass to the Horde. The Horde will untap. This Younghorn cannot attack. We'll cast the top 3 cards. The first one is Simogus is Chosen. It's not going to enter the battlefield tapped. The second one is a Minotaur Gore Seeker. And the third one is a Minotaur Younghorn. Gore Seeker and the Younghorn will attack. And the Gore Seeker will run into the Alert Heat Bonder, will run into the Opposing Venusaur and die. And the Younghorn will run into the Alert Heat Bonder and die. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Red will draw a Full Scare Mentor, and we will discard the Flourishing Fox. Blue will draw a Wingspan Mentor, and we will discard the Divine Arrow. We'll untap. We'll also gain a counter from the draw, and then we'll go ahead and get the Kraken creature before the end of the turn, so it is in the battlefield this turn. And then we will draw. Red draws a Plains. Blue will draw a Plains. Get another counter on the Ominous Seas. Red will tap the blue and the plains and a mountain to mutate the pouncing shore shark. This is a 4/3 shark beast with mutate, 3 blue, flash, and whenever this creature mutates, you may return target creature opponent controls to its owner's hand. We're going to mutate that on top of the Lord Dracus, and that will get us the Mythos of Vadrock back into our hand again. And this will bounce the Mogis' Chosen. Blue will play the Tranquil Cove tap. We'll get another life to go up to 7. We'll spend 3 to cast the Wingspan Mentor. That will be the Imposing Venusaur. You can pay 2 and blue and tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control with flying. We'll play the plains over here, and we'll play the plains over here. We'll go to combat and attack with both of the Vigilant creatures, the Dreamtail Heron, as well as the Pouncing Shore Shark, as well as the Kraken, for 20 damage. We hit a Refreshing Elixir. When it's put into a graveyard from anywhere, each player gains 5 life. We'll gain 10 life to go up to 17. We hit a Massacre Totem, so we'll put 7 more cards in the graveyard. We also hit a Refreshing Elixir again, so we'll gain another 10 life to go up to 37. That appears to be it there. We'll follow up by over here. We'll be casting a Ferocious Tigrilla. This is a 4/3 cat ape and enters the battlefield with your choice of a trample counter or a menace counter on it. We'll choose a menace counter. And then we will spend 5 mana over here to cast Yorion Sky Nomad. This is a 4/5 legendary bird serpent with companion and flying, and when it enters the battlefield, exile any number of other non-land permanents you own and control. Return those cards to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. We'll go ahead and exile the Wingspan Mentor and bring it back, putting another flying counter on the Alert Heatbonder. And then we'll gain 2 life from the Heatbonder's ability to go up to 29. And then we will pass the turn to the Horde. The Horde will cast the top 3 spells. The first one is a Vitality Salve. The second one is a Descend Upon the Prey. It says whenever a Minotaur attacks this turn, it gains first strike until end of turn and must be blocked this turn if able. And then we have a Phobos Reaver. These are going to be attacking, and we will block the Phobos Reaver with the Imposing Venusaur and the Younghorn with the Dreamtail Heron. They both have first strike, but that's not enough to get past the toughness, and both of these will die. And then we will use the Harvester at the end of the turn. Red will draw a plains and discard the plains. Blue will draw a island and will discard the island, and then we'll untap. Red draws a Porcupine. Blue draws a Spontaneous Flight. We will go to combat, because I believe we can just win this if we just swing everything. So we'll swing everything. We should have gotten 2 counters from this. And then that will be a total of 29 damage. Alright, we'll hit a Plundered Statue. Red will draw a Regal Venusaur, and blue will draw a Plains, and we'll gain a counter over there. We hit an Altar of Mogis. We'll have to sack 2 Horde creatures, but they don't have any. That is it. The Ikoria Sealed decks defeat the Horde in straight sets. The second one was a little bit scary at times, but we managed to pull it together. And that is that. Let me know what you thought about the games in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of my videos, you can hit subscribe. This was Refresh. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.